What's up, YouTube? Today I have a very special guest. We just saw her on television not too long ago in the Women's Royal Rumble. It's Ariane Andrew. How are you?
I'm doing well. How about you?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. Actually, this is a full circle for me right now. I'm 22. I'm in college right now, but I've been a fan of professional wrestling for a very long time. And I've seen you debut to up to this point in your career. A little story, real quick, is actually like the first time I ever met a pro wrestler. I'll set the scene for you. It was WrestleMania Access, WrestleMania 29, 2013. I get in there, I get in line. I'm like, all right, which wrestler am I going to meet? First time ever meeting a famous person. I'm like, all right, here's a line. Cameron and Naomi. I'm like, this is crazy. This is crazy. These guys are famous. They're on television every week. I get in line. I get close up. I'm like, all right, they're there. They're talking to people. They seem really nice. I'm like, all right, just got to say something cool so they don't think I'm weird or anything like that. I get closer. I'm like, shit, what's my name? Crap. I'm forgetting everything right now. Hopefully they don't think I'm weird. I get up in line, or I get close up, and then I walk up to you guys. You guys are super nice, super grateful. And I start to say hi, and then no voice comes out. I'm like, crap. You guys are super nice. You took the picture. I left after. I was like, Jesus Christ, I just butchered everything right now. Way to fumble in the end zone.
Look how life happens though, right? You know? So we're having a full circle moment. Look you're talking and doing just great. So
thank you. I appreciate it. Do you ever have these moments where like you run into fans and they were like, oh my gosh, it's Cameron. Like, what's like those moments like now seeing that you're no longer like in wrestling the same way you were before?
You know, it's so dope because to have people say like, oh, you know, I've been watching you since this, or you're inspiring, considering like knowing my story. And then kind of, you know, for most people, like after wrestling, or honestly after wrestling, but being in such a big spotlight, and most people are just kind of like, what do I do after? So people always like, you're super inspiring that you've never given up. Like you want to get back in the ring and how you push for that, or the things that you've been doing in your life, like you've just never taken no for an answer. So when people tell me I'm such a huge inspiration to them, like at least it makes me feel like every day when I wake up in the morning and I do what I do, like even if it's inspiring someone, I feel like that's super inspiring for me to keep going.
Definitely. And one thing I want to come on real quick is that your hair is purple now. It's actually really cool. It's like one of my favorite colors. Why did you decide to dye it purple?
Well, I really loved my purple gear. That was like coming towards the end when everything happened, and purple is my favorite color. Nice. So I know that like a lot of the girls have done like the, you know, different color hairstyles, but I was like, you know what? Let's just do something based off my favorite gear. When I revamped it, I was like, well, also let's just do purple hair as well. Like, let's just make it come all full circle so I could just be like this purple queen.
Definitely, definitely. And seeing you come out at the Royal Rumble was such an amazing sight to see. Because I'm like, oh my gosh, I haven't seen her since like obviously how your AEW debut. And then before that, it's like I haven't seen you in WWE in like 6, maybe 7 years. So I'm like, how was it like walking back out into that crowd where you're like, well, it's been a long time. Are they going to actually remember me, or how's it going to go? Like, what was your thoughts walking out into the Royal Rumble?
You know, it's just like that moment leading up where it's like, you know, you're about to be next. And then I just had found out right beforehand that I was coming out to the Funk Adapter music and not the Girl Bye music. So I was like, oh, okay, I'm like, okay, what am I gonna do for my entrance? But it's just like anything. I feel like it's like a bicycle. It's like you just feel the presence and you just kind of go with the flow. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna give a little bit of dactyl, but with the Girl Bye. So, you know, but just also to hear the response, like people are like, did you hear how people went nuts? And yeah, I didn't know what to expect because I've always kind of been that person where everyone I feel like always had something negative to say, like you can't wrestle, you're this. So I didn't know what the response was going to be, and just hearing how people want to see Trin and I get back together, Naomi, and just the response of how positive people were just like, damn, you look better now. And that was my whole goal. My goal is like, I'm 34 years young. Yeah. You know, embrace it, but to be like, I want to look better than what I looked in my 20s. And I also want to go and put out like, even if it's for this amount of time, like sometimes I always say turn chicken to chicken noodle soup. You know what I mean? So you have this amount of time, but it's just like, okay, well, I'm about to go out there and make the best out of my time, which I think I did. Like I have no regrets. Like I feel like everything from the gear to, you know, taking the time to go train and all these things, like I feel like I didn't leave any crumbs left on the table.
Definitely. And like you got to take part in the Naomi storyline right now with Sonya Deville. What's your thoughts on that storyline that Naomi's in right now?
You know, it's interesting because she feels like it's one of the best storylines she's been in. I feel like I still want to see her in like the title picture. So for me, hey, again, you have to, we all know this is, it's a sport, but it's entertainment and things come in waves. And I feel like, if she's getting this moment to be on TV, it's kind of, I guess just, it's about how you look at things, perspective. Like I would love for her to be in a different storyline, but this is what she has and she's being used. So, where a lot of girls can be like, they don't have the same thing going. But yeah, I'm interested to see like where this is gonna go. I don't know, maybe I'm gonna be coming back to help her.
Yeah, I mean, that was almost my next question too, is like, well, since you already played a little moment into that storyline right there, how close are we to seeing you actually come back to a full-time capacity? I don't know if you can answer that, but gotta at least ask.
I'm gonna say this because I mean, all the interviews that I've done before, I've always been like, I'm manifesting. We're gonna get the tag team titles. We're gonna be the first Black woman ever and make history by getting the titles. And I'm still saying that. I went out and I put such a good performance, and just also too the feedback that I got from the executives of how they were like, wow, you did such a great job. You went out, you showed up, you looked amazing. So the feedback has been so positive. There's actually something I would love to spill some tea, but I can't say. So.
I mean, you can if you want. I mean, there's nothing to stop you.
I mean, I can if I want, but all I'm gonna just say is nothing's real until it's real, but I definitely will say that I don't think my time has come to an end yet in the ring.
I mean, that's like a great quote, but like, you're right there. All you gotta do is just say it, but it's okay. I understand. No worries.
Well, I mean, again, nothing's real until it's real, right? Like, so just gonna leave it at that.
Okay, fair enough. But let's transition to stuff that you're doing like outside of wrestling right now. You have so many different projects going on. I was gonna list them all off in introduction, but I think it would have taken like 20 or 30 minutes. Like you have a fitness app, you've been doing movies, music. I want to talk more about the fitness app first. What was like your idea in going into like making this app? Because obviously it's really great. And then I've looked at it myself. I'm like, it's really great that you have a fitness app in general that's obviously leading towards people having a better body, et cetera, just getting in better shape. But also it's like there's a mental capacity of it as well, of them actually having a stronger mental health, which I feel like might be way more important than what you can do in the gym. So what was your idea in making this app?
Well, I was never into fitness when I was in WWE. For me, it was like, I need sleep. So to me, sleep was more important than working out. But then after I was done, you're trying to find yourself, that was the majority of my 20s is like, I was Cameron, I was this character. And especially too, because I struggle with mental health. I'm diagnosed with ADHD, depression, anxiety. And it made it even rough, during those times, trying to figure out, okay, like what's next? How do you move forward? And for me, I figured, it was exercise. I got into exercising, but then I also started journaling and meditating. Then I just realized, I was like, wow, if I have a platform, people only look at your Instagram and you only see the highlight reel typically. And you're comparing your life to social media and you're not doing enough, you're not pretty enough, you're not doing these things. And I was like, you know what? I want to have this platform where I'm able to show people, no matter where you are, what you're going through, that you can get through things. Like you can overcome anything if you're willing to put in the work. Everything is in life, like you want success, you got to put in the work, So why I love my app, I have like these challenges where it's like, write down 3 things you're grateful for, because there's no way you can be grateful and then like hating life at the same time, because it makes you put life into perspective. And I always say, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. Perspective is everything. You could feel like my whole life is falling down, but then you're like, well, damn, I woke up today, I have a roof over my head. So yeah, that's why this app is super important for me, not to only focus on physical well-being, just because nowadays, it's like, you got to look this way, and it's like, no, it's about how do you feel on the inside, because your inner world creates your outer world. So yeah, my app is AA Academy. I actually have a 4-week challenge happening now called Ready to Rumble, which is a play off of what I did physically and mentally to get ready for being in the Rumble. So it's kind of like, hey, I'm gonna bring you into my world and show you what I did to get in mental and physical shape. And what I love about my app, it's super affordable. It's $3.99 for a month and $24.99 for the year. So, I mean, I'm not good at math, but I feel like there's no such thing as half a cent. But okay, let's just say maybe it's a cent a day. we spend money on on coffee and stuff that, so So I wanted to make it super affordable. For me, it really was, it's not really about the money. It's about getting a community of people and being like, hey, we can do this all together. So yeah. And it Apple Store, Google Play. So whatever phone you have, you can download it.
Perfect, perfect. And looking back into like your background before you got into wrestling, you correct me if I'm wrong, but you graduated with a bachelor degree in business and psychology, and you were working to be a therapist. Did you actually like go through and actually become a therapist and working with autistic children?
Yeah, so I did that for about 3 years. I was a senior behavior therapist. Then I was going on to get my master's because I wanted to open up my own practice. It's just something about being able to see a child who couldn't even speak, and then once they graduate, they're able to live a pretty, normal life. Maybe a little quirky, but to graduate and be like, wow, this child couldn't even talk, and then I worked with them, and we did a lot of therapy sessions, and now look at where they're at. So yeah, that was what I was on my way to do, and then WWE happened. So it's crazy, but WWE offers so many great things. Me being able to be a part of the Special Olympics, and they're all about giving back. So I was like, wow, entertainment, being an athlete and giving back, check, check, check. Like, of course, like I want to do this. So yeah, that was my life before WWE happened.
Wow, that's amazing. Actually, my best friend, she's actually into occupational therapy OT right now, and I know that's like a little bit different. But did you ever have like a child that you're working with that's like really connected with you that like maybe you still remember to this day?
Say that one more time.
You have like a child that you worked with like when you were a therapist that you still remember to this day?
Oh my gosh, yes. It's kind of hard because when you're in that world, there are those like boundaries, where it's you want to check in, you want to say hi, but it's also like working in that world. It's very professional, and it's kind of hard because you create these relationships with this family, you see them all the time, but it's kind of hard because like there's a confidentiality. So that, but there is this one child that I worked with that I still remember to this day. And now it actually makes me feel like, oh, I want to almost call and like check in and see how he's doing. It's one of my favorite clients, only for the simple fact, when I first met him, he couldn't talk. He was really aggressive, and when we were, and he was hard of hearing. But once he graduated and was able to talk, and we're like, oh, he's going to be able to live, a life, get married. He's just going to be a little bit quirky. So yeah, I remember that was one of my favorite kids ever.
That's amazing just to see like the kind of work that people do before they even get into wrestling. Because I've heard like different stories of like AJ Styles works in a grocery store or someone works in like a CD store. I'm like, oh, she was a therapist. That's like the most different I've ever heard out of everyone. So that's amazing to see the work you're doing before and still doing today. It's really awesome to see. But to even get into like the other stuff they're doing as well. I mean, you have music and movies. I watched Jaded Pictures. It was really good.
What pictures?
Yeah.
Where?
It was on, someone sent it to me. There's like, oh, look, Cameron's in this.
Oh, you're maybe talking about Underdog. Because Jaded Pictures, that has not been released anywhere.
I might be talking about the wrong one then. I might say the wrong word.
You're not talking about Underdog. What was it about? What was it about? The one that you watched?
Man, it was like a few months ago. I don't remember to the T. I just remember hearing the word Jaded Pictures, probably looking up research value, but it probably was Underdog instead. I might have had it wrong.
Okay. Yeah, no, yeah, definitely gotten into film. I always say like the worst thing you can ever do is let a dream live at the cemetery. And I mean, I know when it comes to like the wrestling world, people just want you to stay, do this forever. But I'm like, I can't be 90 still wrestling, there's other things, but I'm like, why not be able to mix all the worlds? But yeah, I just dropped this song called Queen, which again, there's a huge campaign about it. I actually, excuse me, of course I should have turned off the phone before, but I pretty much partnered with IME, and the founder of that's Terrell Macklin, and his whole campaign is about different messages. And I'm his first campaign, and it's my body, my choice, my voice. And we decided to release Queen, which is kind of like when you're focused, driven, and resilient, and you stay in your lane, like stay true to you, like the sky has no limits. And that's kind of like what Queen's about. It's kind of like, I mean, we have the clean version, but it's like, yeah, I'm not worried about a bad chick. Like if you know what you bring to the table, you don't have to worry about what someone else is doing. Like stay your lane, do you, and be you. So yeah, I was super excited to do that. The music video is about to launch soon. Now if people want to watch the preview of Queen, it's on imelife.com. So yeah, that was super exciting. The production and just the whole team that I had behind this song was amazing. Yeah, and I'm super excited. I can't wait for people to see the music video. It's so dope. So the date hasn't been confirmed yet, but I think it's one of the best works that I've done to this day. Yeah. So yeah, and people right now, go stream my music. I have multiple songs, collaborations. Started doing music last year, so stream my music at Ariane Andrew, and yeah.
You love to see it. You love to see it. Do you find it hard being like a former pro wrestler or a current pro wrestler, depending on what you might be doing down the road? Do you find it hard to like get out of that box of just being like the wrestler? Because I know a lot of people in entertainment find themselves like in these boxes. Like I know they're not big fan favorites, but like Logan and Jake Paul, they're just the YouTubers, but also do these other things. Do you find yourself like always trapped in that box of being like just the wrestler, trying to get into movies and music and etc.?
Yeah, it's a gift and a curse because sometimes people are like, that's exciting.
Yeah.
But then also too, it's like, no, like, no, thank you. We're not interested. Like that's its own lane. Yeah, and it's difficult, but anything in life worth having is difficult. I mean, I'm grateful because I wouldn't even have the opportunities to do movies or to get auditions. Like just a big audition I got yesterday for as a recurring role. Like I wouldn't have this opportunity or these opportunities if it wasn't for having such a strong fan base and the fans out there and WWE, because it's, without them, they're like, oh, well, what are you? I mean, of course I would still be out there doing my thing, but that's the whole reason of why my name can even be put in the mix, is because it's like, oh, she does have such a huge platform. So yeah, I mean, just like anything, everything has its pros and cons, but if you really, really want something, like, I mean, I know it sounds cliche, like it may be difficult, maybe harder than the next person, but if you really want something, you can get it. Like, it's just about how bad do you want it, like I knew I was determined to come back to the ring. So it's like, well, how bad do you want it? Like, okay, well, let me go take my ass to go train. Like, people don't know. Like, also too, like I couldn't share, but even with the Rumble, because I was surprised, like I was putting in the work, training, like doing these things. Like, so if you want something, you gotta go after it. And I meant investing, paying for it myself, getting a facility. It's just kind of like, if you want something in life, like it's not easy, but nothing worth having is. So you want it, go the fuck after it. Oh, excuse me, I don't know if I can test.
Oh, you're fine. No.
Okay. Yeah. So it's definitely can be very difficult, but I know what I want and I'm gonna get it.
Great. I love that. So you talked about your training going back into the Rumble. How long were you training leading up to this point? Like from the moment that you found out, like, yeah, you're going to be in the Women's Rumble to before you walk out into the curtain, like who were you training with? Where were you training? What was the whole process?
So, it's so funny. I have a close friend named Hunter Gallagher, and he actually trains at Knox Pro with Rikishi's school. So we spend a lot of time together, just doing drills, and it's so crazy because I felt like I was going to be super rusty, but I actually feel like he was like, and he was also the one who get me like outside of my comfort box, like the Hurricanrana. He was like, no, you're going to do this. And I'm like, oh, no, I can't, so it's super interesting. Like he was the one who really kind of helped me get out of my comfort box and just being there. He was there for my music video. He was there for all my stuff that I did wrestling wise that's in my music video, for training. Like I really give him props. And I can't wait to see him. I can't wait to see him in WWE one day, like, cause that's his dream. So yeah, no, that was, so shout out to, Knox Pro for letting me use their facility and train and, get that ring rust off and get me prepared.
Definitely, and hopefully he does make it to the WWE. That'd be great to see him, and hopefully you're back in there with him too. Maybe a little mixed tag team action. Love to see it happen.
Exactly.
But going into like other stuff you've done in wrestling as well, AEW. So you had a quick match in AEW before. It was a deadly draw. It was you, Nyla Rose, taking on, I believe it was Tay Conti and Anna Jay. What was it like being in AEW and like being in a different locker room that wasn't just the WWE?
I was so nervous because that was one of the big things too, coming back. It's like, you've been gone for a while. These girls, they travel together, and it's like almost kind of like, with AEW, it's like I'm walking to a space that, I've never really met many people. I mean, the closest person I was to was Sunny Kiss, so walking, I was like, oh my gosh, like, how is it going to be? And honestly, it was great. Everyone was welcoming. It wasn't stressful. So once that was like, whew, okay, I can take that off the list. It was more like, okay, what's this match gonna be like? Because it all happened so last minute. I didn't have time to train. It was like, it happened so quick. But yeah, I mean, looking back, I kind of was like, oh, I wish certain things could have been better. But yeah, I mean, it still was something exciting to do and be back in the space, but also do a match where there was no one in the audience. That was also an experience. So I'm grateful for it. Is it the best match, or looking back, I'm like, oh, it's a little, but I'm grateful for that experience.
Definitely. And one thing I always wondered about your career, because I know you at one point you were trained to come back in Effy's Big Gay Brunch, but I know COVID happened and that unfortunately didn't happen. And when I listen to a lot of your interviews, you always talk about the WWE going back there, becoming the first Black women tag team champions with Naomi, which is obviously a great goal to have. I mean, that's historic by itself. Yeah. Do you have any aspirations of working in places outside of just the WWE, the independents, Impact Wrestling, NWA, et cetera? Does that interest you at all, or are you mainly set on just going to the WWE, to AEW?
It's kind of hard because when AEW it's almost become, it's like the competition now with WWE, and it's so hard to say, because at first people are like, well, if you do the AEW, do you think the WWE is ever going to ask you to come back? But it's like times have changed. I mean, look at Mickie James. She came out as the knockout champion in the Rumble. You know what I mean? So I think nowadays, but also too, I don't try to just live in that headspace. I'm just kind of let me do what's happening now at this moment, and whatever is meant to be will. I'm open to see what happens and to be open to other things. But at the moment, I would say, I don't even know if that is a thing, because right now my focus is to make history. And then whatever happens after that, let's see what happens. But I'm really determined about that, because I feel like people would love to see for, Naomi and I to have another run together, be together as the Funkadactyls, make history. And then after that, I'm like, everything's in a free game.
Definitely. And is there any women on the scene right now in WWE or outside of it that you are watching? It's all right, I'm not going to copy what you're doing, but I do like the wrestling style that you're showing in the ring.
I feel like there's so many different girls that bring something to the table. I've always been a big fan of Sasha. Just her vibe, how she commands the crowd. She's tiny, I'm a super tiny person too, but she's tiny but mighty, Who else would I say? I like the girl down in NXT, Nikita. I feel like she brings a lot of sass, and she's a bigger girl, but it's she really owns, I haven't seen that in a while. I feel like what has been missing a lot in all of the women's division is character development. There's a lot of great wrestlers, but I feel like it's the character. And at the end of the day, people can get upset or whatever, but we're not MMA. If you want to see women get all bloody and beat each other's ass, you're gonna go watch the MMA. But I feel like with whether it's AEW, Impact, whatever the case, the independents, it's sports entertainment. And I feel like we've gotten a little bit far away from, I think you could still be kick-ass and show what you're made of, but having character, because that's entertaining. I feel like you can teach anyone how to wrestle, but you can't teach charisma. That's what makes it exciting, is having I look at Billie Kay, before she got let go, that character is so entertaining. You know what I mean? To watch her with her resume, you need that. I mean, of course you're gonna have your high tier stars who aren't gonna have that character, but also why not? Yeah. Why can't there be someone up here who has crazy amount of character? So yeah, I just want to hold it right now.
Love to hear it. I guess my last two questions for you, and I know a lot of people take this more as like a joke, but I actually was just more curious on why you picked this match. You said on Tough Enough, obviously we all know Melina versus Alicia Fox is your favorite match, and I mean, yeah, I actually really like that match. I'm not here to clown it at all. I actually was a fan of it because I loved Alicia Fox growing up. Why was that match for you at that time? Whenever it was that like your first experience in wrestling, why did that match captivate your intrigue and become a pro wrestler?
You know, at the time, I mean, I'm very honest. I wasn't a huge avid, you know, wrestling fan growing up. My brother was. Oh my gosh, he was obsessed. And at the time, just that's kind of when I had got into wrestling. And I'll be honest, it's been seeing someone who looked like me. You know what I mean? Someone, and that at the time there wasn't any representation of women of Black women, and I do think Alicia is super athletic, and at that moment, that happened to be, and I get it. You have some of the greatest matches of all time, but at that time, I can still say like those are, you know, amazing matches. But at that moment, that's what resonated with me, because I was just like, damn, like I'm trying to get there, and this is the person who's representing at the time. So at that time, that's just what I felt. Not to discredit, we know there's fucking great historic matches out there. Come on now, but just that was just what I felt at the moment.
No, there's nothing wrong with that. One of my favorite matches at the time was like Randy Orton versus Kofi. And even though Kofi had gotten beaten down and Randy called him stupid and stuff, I was like, well, that's like one of the first Black wrestlers I've never experienced watching. So to see someone that looks like you do something that's so amazing, it's like, I don't really care if everyone doesn't like that match per se. Like I like it because it resonates with what I want to do with my life, being a pro wrestler.
And at the time, that's just what it, you know, I was like actually looking at all her stuff, because I'm like, there hadn't been someone, and you know, who, you know, she was the first woman to have the Divas Championship belt, you know, so it's just kind of like things like that. I'm like, that's so dope, you know. So when you, especially when there is no representation at the time, it's kind of like what you relate to, you know. I'm a Black woman, and you know, that's what I felt. So
for sure. And like a little follow-up to that, it's like when you had that moment in like the interaction with Stone Cold Steve Austin, what was like when the cameras weren't rolling? Like, was there actual like beef, like, tension, or was it more just played up for the camera?
no, I mean, you know, I think I know at the time he really was a little taken back, like, wait, you know, and I know it's so crazy. He's still like, he was such a big supporter of me, because even after everything happened, he was just like, there's something about you, you know, you have star quality, like I will end up seeing you. And it's crazy because he's the first person I started my career with, and when everything came to an end, I actually went on his podcast and we had a great chat too. And he, you know, he used to always be like, when I would see him backstage, when, you know, he'd have like these appearances, he'd always like be like I'm so proud of you, kid. So yeah, even though we had that moment, he was, you know, we've always had like a great relationship behind the scenes, and he, you know, he was able to say like, damn, you know, like I'm rooting for you. I'm rooting for you, girl.
Definitely. And to like wrap all this up, I mean, like there's rumors going around that he might return. You obviously had your big return this year as well. So I'm just saying it's all seemed to work out pretty well. Ariane, where can they find you on social media, and what are you doing next in the world of professional wrestling and also just your life? I mean, you're doing so many different things. You're a host, you're doing this and that and the third. Like, what's going on in your life?
Oh yeah, we didn't even have time to talk about sipping the tea, but yeah, everyone can follow me across the board at Ariane Andrew. Of course, stream my music, and yeah, we actually have a podcast with my co-host Matt Dillon that you can check out. The Bellatoons were actually our 150th episode. We took a small pause, but stay tuned. Watch the space, Sipping the Tea TV show, because we will be coming back. Just go to my page. You can see everything that I have going on just from there.
Amazing, amazing. For me, this has been a big full circle moment. First ever wrestler I ever met to now I'm just interviewing you on YouTube. It's been great. Thank you so much for coming on the channel. I really do appreciate it. And guys, I mean, make sure to check out everything that she's doing right now. I'll link it all in the description down below. And make sure to like, comment, share, always subscribe, and we're out.
We going up like 1,000. I'm a flex just like a muscle man Malcolm. We going up like 1,000. I'm a flex just like a muscle man Malcolm. When it just like 1, 2, 3. If you like the channel, this will squeeze. If you like the channel, this will squeeze. If you like the channel, this will squeeze.